Hello, welcome back to Transport Fever 2 and Sandbox French Alpine map I've been working on for a number of episodes now. And where we left it last time, I was still working on the completely custom city, which I've now called Avignon, and I still haven't finished. And I have to say, if you are going to embark on creating a completely custom city from scratch, you better set aside quite a bit of time, because I've literally hand placed every single building and every single road in this town. And whilst I'm happy with how it's going so far, I've still got quite a bit of suburb work to do and bits to fill in that I haven't completed yet. I'm leaving this area because I'm not quite sure where I'm taking these railway lines yet. I might introduce some further industries. But a little tour. We have the main station, which is where it all started before we had anything else here. We have a bit of a central business district, a cathedral. Traffic is picking up a little bit, even with the new Transport Fever update that's currently on the beta branch in Steam. The traffic was considerably worse without that, but it's still quite heavy. But we haven't introduced any buses or trams yet. We have a bit of a original old school bit of town, using some lovely French buildings from the Steam workshop and various bits of older residential. We have the bits of residential that France liked to introduce into the 60s and 70s, and the way this was always introduced, completely against the existing urban grain. It had some lovely highfalutin ideas about new visions for new architecture. Never quite worked out. Each to their own. We all have different tastes. We've got sort of little suburban areas around the edges. These are quite nice places to live. Moderately bigger residential areas. A few pockets of industrial and commercial around. More modernism. More sports fields. The French love their local sports. Stadiums. We have a couple of farms popped in around. And just like in Limo, the first city, these farms are generating crops and livestock right out in the sticks now. So I'm quite happy with how it's going. I might not have done it if I'd known how long it was going to take. But saying that, you wouldn't have got this from the standard city building tool. It's certainly one that generated something with this kind of kookiness and interest. We've introduced a sports stadium. You can see this is where one of the busier areas of traffic is around this part of town. Then we have some industrial areas over near the train depots, and industrial sheds, warehouses, the usual out of town retail boxes. And we have our container station, where we were talking previously about our high-speed container train that uses the same lines as the TGV. So we have two high-speed container trains that nestle into the TGV schedule. And we have a food factory. So this food factory is actually taking the crops and the livestock from Limo, the first city. It's turning it into food. So that food is actually being sent back via our cargo train, our container train, and we can see we have some food waiting to be picked up. So this is working quite well. So this is our lines that will run into our second river valley, which we haven't developed at all yet, and we have a local sort of distributed road heading that way as well. So we haven't developed these at all apart from the TGV, and this TGV line heads to City 3, which is much further down the map. And then we have the regional lines that run down the first river valley. And then we have the TGV lines, of course, as well, which run this direction towards Limu, City 1. So a few further developments. We've introduced a autoroute motorway system. So we have a main junction that goes into town here from the autoroute, and the autoroute follows the river valley all the way down. We'll have a new town at this location. If you remember, a couple of episodes ago we set out these railway lines. Here's the autoroute, here's the TGV line, here's the regional line, here's the regional road. So very tight along this river valley. There'll be lots of trees and other things happening along here, but at the moment it's just the transport infrastructure. Continue down the river valley. Another town at this location. Another autoroute junction with another town. So lots of interesting overlaps with the various bits of infrastructure. Another town here. Here's the TGV line crossing over. Here's the connection where we run trains and towns on the other side of the river valley. And the autoroute, the TGV line, the local regional lines, the goods trains and the local road then head up in the valley at this end of the map, which I developed previously, to the city of Limu. Now Limu was created as a standard town using the advanced town builder tool, and at the time we were a little worried because it started off this big and immediately retracted to something quite small because Limu wasn't getting supplied with the right amount of goods. There weren't any connections to other places or other people. But happy to say that the industrial side of Limu has pretty much regenerated over a couple of hours, and the commercial and residential areas are on their way to catching up. So that's good news. And you can see how the standard Transport Fever 2 city looks compared to the one that I've created from scratch. They're a little different, but I think they're different places. This is a much smaller, much more market town sort of affair compared to Avignon, which I see as a sort of regional city. And you can see our container train. Don't know if that's leaving or arriving. That has food on. So food has arrived back from Avignon, and that will be distributed via our trucks to the various food drop-off places around the map. So that's good. So that is in business. So things are working. Excellent. And now it's picking up some crops to take back. We will have more cargo trains running. The only reason I've got this one running is because I was determined to see if I could get it to work alongside the TGVs. Now we have our steelworks. Haven't set any trains or lines or routes up yet. We have no sources of coal or iron ore set up yet. So that's something to do in the future. We have lots and lots of farms in this valley producing the crops and the livestock that we mentioned. I'll go into Limu. And we have local trains set up with the smaller villages. So they are taking passengers in a big loop around the valley and back to Limu. And if you didn't know already, the way that I'm running the trains with timetables, I'm pretending we are on a 24-hour day, and at the end of the day all the trains arrive back into their respective depots for their maintenance and cleaning before leaving the depot again in the morning. Of course there's no day or night cycle in Transport Fever 2, but that's what we're pretending. So things are happening around here, so that's looking good. Traffic, we have pockets of heavy traffic in places, but I have not run any passenger buses or any passenger trams yet, so that will be something I will need to do, particularly in both of these main cities before we go too much further. And you'll see the sort of passenger numbers on the TGVs, 35 out of 450, because I'm not supplying the station with all the potential passengers that could come from Limu. From the other villages, yes, you can get a small regional train to come into Limu, but we need to get our local bus networks going and our tram networks going. But I'm not too concerned with that for the moment. I will do that in a few episodes or so. What we're going to focus on in this episode is setting up train routes to serve what will be our regional towns along the river valley. And I don't know if you noticed that already. That is something I need to fix. That looks a bit odd on our auto route. So we'll set up train routes for the regional trains, and then we can start creating towns. I'm also going to set up a couple of regional container terminals so that these towns can be supplied with food and the other goods and tools, etc. that they need to thrive. And one of the other things I will then need to do is make sure that we've got everything connected so that, for example, see the auto route is completely dead, the local roads are completely dead because we don't have any destinations that are close enough for people to want to go to. Because this is an extreme modded map size, using the settings to make a Megalomaniac map. I think even halfway down the map, this city might be a little bit too far for people who live at the opposite end of the map to come. It's just a stretch too far. The people who will go are using the TGV. You can see we have 30 people waiting to go to Lima on that line. There's a TGV at the moment that's in there taking on passengers. So people will go, but not in the numbers that might go if the city was only sort of at this point. So that is a challenge, and that's an interesting one. So we're going to try and generate a little bit of traffic on the auto route to actually get people to appear to be driving on it by hopefully developing and making these towns places that people want to visit, people want to go and work, people want to go and see, and we will also create some industries where we can, and that will also attract people into transport as well. So looking at the timetable, we've created the trains as noted on the local line E that run around City 1, which is Lima. We've created TGV lines, B, C and A that serve Avignon and City 2. We haven't created lines F and G. G runs one side of the river, F runs the other side of the river, and these go up to City 2. And we also haven't created line H that runs through the valley. And we'll come back and look at the valley another time. I'm going to focus on the river. So we first need to set up a test line that runs along route G. We haven't created depot 4 or depot 5 yet. We'll wait and see on the timing whether we need to create these depots or not, or whether the depots that we've already created, TER depot 3, TER depot 1, are sufficient to serve this purpose. So we're going to create a new line. We're going to call it test line G. See, I have a lot of numbered lines here with various truck routes which I haven't named, which is very bad of me. I'll have to get around and doing that. So you can see in terms of Lima station what platforms are currently being used. And it's just using these 4 platforms for the TGV routes at the moment, the ones that terminate at this station and the ones that continue onto City 3. So we'll just select Avignon to start with, and the first stop on this line, these stations may well be named, but we haven't actually built the towns yet, so they may be named a little weirdly. So we'll hit that one. Immediately we've got an issue because it picked platforms at Oosteritz that don't allow it to continue to Avignon. So we just need to, yes, we have problems all across the board. So let's see where we started with. So that's fine. This should be okay. I think it might be causing issues because we haven't completed the full loop yet. So all it took was adding these two signals, forcing the route to go via that signal, and also making sure that I had sufficient crossover tracks to enable the train to come back in. And then everything fell into place. So sometimes it's just one small piece of the puzzle that it can't quite figure out how to work. So we have a test track for test line G, and we will purchase a train to enable us to run this route. And I'm going to do it from Limo, because I know I have a depot located perfectly adjacent to the main station to enable us to do it. And in Limo, we're going to use these platforms at the end, well out of the way of the other train networks that are running. So I'll purchase a train from our depot at this point. So the trains we're going to use on this line at least is the Bombardier Talent 2, the TER variation, and we'll run these in sets of 3, and this gives us a capacity of 732, which is quite significant. Top speed of 160, so that's really quite good for these lines. And we'll buy this and we'll set it running, and hopefully it will pick up our test line from this depot location. Always a little delay once it creates it. Excellent, so we're in business. Is it good? I'm not quite sure of the horn, but nice burst acceleration there. The depot. That's actually the start of the day. The TGVs are back in their depot. Last train arriving. Actually a little late. I wonder why that slipped in the timetable. Should have been its depot run out. And we have the local trains in that depot too. So the way I've been doing these timetables, making a note of the departure time. That's the key time that we need to make a note of. So we're referencing this time on the timetable mod and when the departure is. And we have an issue. It can't find the route. No path electric. Sometimes the way to solve this is to simply reverse the train. But that's not working this time. So we're going to need to figure out where we don't have any electrical running. So I'm going to do that with the track set to how we want it to be. And the key is finding any red track. Red track is track which is not the same as what I've set up here, because this is the wizard to convert it. So I can convert red tracks into blue. So we'll see if there's any track which has different settings from what I have here. And I'm pretty sure I've got this covered. The red is the goods track, which I haven't electrified at this point, but we're not using that. So we're all good, as expected. Not missing anything. The stations are all electrified. So we can see as we come into Avignon that we have some red, but this is only because these are high-speed tracks with catenary. So these are still all fine. Changes to high-speed tracks at this point. Meets some standard tracks again, but they're all electrified. All the stations are electrified. So I wonder, could the problem be something with the train? I'm obviously missing something here. No. In fact, the problem is that I've bought a train which is too long for the platforms I've created. And the front of the train is just past the point of the switch to enable the train to go onto the correct track. And I have signals which are forcing trains to only use the left-hand side of the tracks, which is what we use in France. So this train's going nowhere. So I'm going to have to sell this and buy a different one. So that wasn't very good planning on my part. So I think I have some options there for which train to purchase. So I went and I bought 3 of the 3 units, which is 168 meters. Maybe I buy 2 of the 4 units, which is 144 meters. That should get me the correct length that enables the train to turn around and switch tracks. So we'll try that again. Same horn. It's not bad. It could grow on me. This traffic's horrendous. Camille and Philippe, Marceau, Sophia, Thomas, Nina, they're having a hell of a commute. I'm going to have to get some buses going soon. Okay, I'll skip ahead. So we'll call that 9:30 to depart Lima. Made it onto the right track. So we'll make a note of the timings for the next station. These camera views are quite interesting. Okay, that's enough of those. Hello. Oh, it's a bit rad, isn't it? We actually have some autoroute traffic. People are actually driving between cities. Not very many people at this point, but that is a start. French motorways don't get that busy, but it's a little busier than this, I would say that much. We've got 1330 for Tan 7. Well, this is going to be a beautiful town nestled between the autoroute, the high-level TGV bridge, the river, the mountain. So we'll get some town buildings in somewhere along here. Anyway, Town 9. It's a lovely braking sound. I'll call this 1630. Give myself some space in the timetable if we have issues. So another interesting town here on the river. This will be Town 14. Famous for its motorway junction. Say 1815 for that one. Call that 2000. Beautiful scenery in this part of the map. Oh, great when this map's finished. 2 or 3 year time, maybe. Maybe by the end of the decade. We'll see. That was a really long run along that part of the river. Really get the sense just how far away and how long this map is, how far apart these towns are. Let's call that 2630, just so we've got enough time if we have any issues. Town 17, not that far away. You can actually see the previous station in the distance. It's one of those stations that only exists because it's on a major junction. It's no different here. We've got 2815. On its way into Avignon. quite dramatic from these low angles. You just do a lot of signalling and detailing of the tracks, the various track assets. Just the bare bones for now. So we'll safely call that 30 minutes. Now we're going to have a look at how this works out with the timers on the timetable. So in our diagram of the first half of the map, we've got as much on the other half of the map that we haven't designed yet. We'll be looking at line G. Line G is here, that runs from Limo, City 1, through Town 7, Town 9, Town 14, Town 15, 16, 13, to City 2, which is Avignon. So we've done the timings, and we can basically, if we set off a train from the depot next to Limo, TER Depot 1, to depart Limo in Transport Fever time 12 minutes 30 on the timetable mod, that equates to our fake 24-hour clock time of 5 AM in the morning. So this is the first train to run, and it will run through the towns, and it will eventually arrive at Avignon sort of halfway through the day, and then there's sufficient time to return from Avignon back to Limo and back into the depot. So that works out quite well. It basically takes half a day to get there, the rest of the day to get back, and we would then basically run the train in the opposite direction, starting from the depot next to Avignon, taking half a day to get to Limo, and then returning back to the depot at Avignon. So this is only 2 trains, and you'll see that the time you have to wait between catching a train in Limo, you can get one at 5 AM or you can get one at 12 minutes to 2 in the afternoon. So not really very frequent, so we need to increase that frequency by adding more trains. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start a train in Town 15, run that to Limo, back to Town 15, back to Limo, back to Town 15. So it's only 2 trains that are going to do the full route. Remember, we've got TGVs that do this route a lot quicker. So this route is really only to serve the regional lines. We'll also then start a slightly earlier train from Town 15 that goes to Avignon. So all these stations get served. But basically, if you want to go from Limo to Avignon, you're better off taking the TGV. If you want to go to these regional towns, you have options roughly real time every 10-12 minutes. So that's where we'll leave it for now. If we need to increase capacity into serving these stations, then we have gaps that we can insert further trains into if we need to. So what this does to the diagram, we'll have a depot created just off Town 15. So we created a small depot station that will serve Town 15, and we need it to accommodate 2 trains overnight. So this is where they will bed down for the evening to have their maintenance and their cleaning, and we will detail this the usual way that we've done with buildings and trackside apparatus. But that will do for now. We will then need to go and repeat the same exercise for the other line on the other side of the river. I won't show that on screen because you just showed the method that will do that, and I'll come back with the results for that one. So for line F, very similar affair. We'll have 4 trains, one based in Limo, one based in Avignon, 2 based in a new depot that we'll create in Town 10, which we'd already sort of assumed and allowed for. So we'll go ahead and construct that, and then we'll set the trains running with their timetables. So with the timetables, as I've shown previously, I'm putting the key times in for leaving the depot, leaving the main station, and then departing from the turnaround point. In this instance, departing TER Depot 1 at 10, departing Limo City 1 at 11:30. It just needs to get to Avignon roughly in the time that we've measured. There's nothing in the way, there's no junctions, there's no other trains going to interfere. Avignon is a timing point, so as long as it leaves at 33 minutes, then it will take the return journey, and it will leave Limo at 53 minutes 30 to return back to the depot. Now you could put strict timing points into the intermediate towns, but as in previous episodes, we just wanted to go through these one by one. No need to stop, no need for any sort of timing points. The timing points can all be arranged at the ends. So we'll let these regional trains set themselves up in their new timetable, and we have lots of trains still to create. We have a mountainous valley between Limo and Avignon still to create. We have a lot of construction and detailing and town building and industry building in the river valley, so that's probably what we'll focus on next. And using our new town and village and hamlet building tools can create some interesting settlements along this river. So join me next time. Hope you're enjoying the series so far.